Today's going to be a bit different from the other ones. This is going to be really heavy focus on the code, and we're going to explain kind of the reasoning of the architecture. Georgie, hello. Yeah, we're going to go over the contracts and why we're doing what we are doing, and then we'll give a bit of insight into how actually staking works around the place. And this isn't just isolated to us, but it's pretty interesting to see how it does work. There's a few different implementations, but we've gone one way. I think there's not that many of us. So I think just I'll go through. I think I'll just go through it and I'll kind of explain the whole architecture. And if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat, in the roundtable text chat, and we will answer them. And then we'll have some, voice Q&A at the end. The Lord of Maps has arrived, Lord Deham. Hello, sir.
Hey, how are you?
Good, mate. All right. Well, okay. So I'm not sure if anybody's who's written contracts here before, but anyway. So from the start, there's quite a few things going on in this repo. And just a note, if anybody wants access to this, just just DM me your GitHub, and I'll give you access. We are going to make it all open source once it's ready. It's not responsible to make contracts open source unless they're ready, in my point of view. So we will. But if you're really curious about them, just drop me a GitHub and I'll give you read access. So yeah, there's quite a few things going on in the Realmverse. We have, well, firstly, we've got our ERC 720, ERC 20, the Lord's token, which is its own, it's a basic ERC 20 token. We've got the SRealm token, which is a, NFT token 721. These are all pretty basic, not really diverging from the standard in these currently. And just bear in mind, look, this is alpha, so there's a bunch of optimizations to do. But if you see anything that sticks out, feel free to just DM me and tell me what I've what could be done better, because there's definitely things that can be better. Like any iteration in any software. And then we got our resource tokens, which are the 1155 tokens. We're actually using an interesting iteration of the 1155. It's actually written by the what's their name? It's a game studio out of Canada. They developed this 1155 contract that packs the bits together and provides even more efficient gas utilization. So we're using this because it just makes sense too.
I think it was Engine, wasn't it?
Is it Engine?
Yeah.
I think that OX Sequence. I think that's what it's called. OX Sequence. Those guys done some great things. Check out their GitHub. And then we got Loot Realms, but Loot Realms is just an actual current Realms contract. And so you can see here, currently the Realmverse, we're basically using every token standard that is available right now. So these are the basic kind of tokens, and these are abstracted into their own contracts. So these can be interacted with, just independently. But currently, the only way to actually interact with them is actually through the main contract structure, which is what I'll explain now. So, everybody knows, contracts are, immutable. Once you deploy them, that's it. But that adds a bit of a limitation to the functionality you can do with gaming, because you want to be able to tweak things, but you also need to you want to retain that immutability as much as possible. But for development and for kind of complicated gaming interactions, there needs to be a way to, increase functionality of the underlying, contract. And so what we've done is there's a EIP standard called the Diamond Standard, and this is it's a proxy contract where you pass in functions through the contract, and it basically initializes them as functions within the proxy. And what this means is that I can keep increasing the functionality of the contract itself without having to redeploy. So it's kind of like a proxy on steroids. And so this is the main part of the whole functionality of the DApp. It's this diamond contract, and we have abstracted the functionality of the state into these individual facets, which are their own contained logic. What the really interesting thing is that they actually all share the same storage state, which is this. And so all these... Sorry, what was that question? No. All these facets, they've all got their own logic in them, but they're all calling the same app storage, which means that we can just keep adding functionality, using the same state. Now, it's a very powerful process. So what we've been doing is as we've been developing this, we've been increasing functionality and adding more facets and upgrading the diamond. And now this isn't something that we're going to be doing in the live version. We're just getting to a point where it will be, have its key functionality, and then we'll just pass off the upgradability to the DAO, and then there'll be votes on how the diamond can be upgraded. Perhaps it happens once every 6 months or every 3 months. Look, it's yet to be decided. But it's not something that we're going to control the keys to. It's just, if we do want to, this is, if everyone votes to, say, change, some of the values that are required to upgrade a resource or upgrade a building, then, we can vote on that and we can upgrade it, basically. And so it's just improving the protocol, just like how Compound improves itself with its governance structure, and other protocols improve its their structure. So yeah, there's a lot going on, but you can see here, this is the army training facet. So what this does is it constructs a army according to the ID that you pass through it on your realm. And apologies for the lack of comments in this. It's naughty, but I'm building the comments out now. So what this does is it builds an army, and it assigns it to your realm, and it's restricted to how many castles you have. So each castle you can build a maximum of 5 units. And so if you don't have space, if you don't have a castle, then you can't build any units. A bunch of getter functions. This is an interesting one. So because it's, everything's on chain, right? We want all the data to actually, all the data's on chain. So this is basically initializer function that sets all the data to upgrade the markets, for example, or to build a market to be, 1's wood, 2 is coal. And so you need 500 wood, 500 coal in order to build a market. And so this data, this bit of data is actually stored on Arbitrum. And so when you go to build it, it'll call this, and you have to either have this amount in your account in order to build this. And, do the same thing for all the buildings. And same with all the resource productions. There's quite a bit of data here, but it's it's not that expensive to store, and it means everyone can trust that this is what it is. And you can see the army initialized. I mean, you have to run this once, so you kind of see the logic's abstracted into these facets, which is really cool. I mean, anybody that's written smart contracts before this is kind of like magic. Just to get a facet, getting some things. This one's interesting. So this is the actual Lord's claiming facet. So what this does is it determines how many claim all lords. It determines the age of the kind of realm verse, which is currently set at 1 week, so 1 week in age, and there's 104 ages currently. And it gets how many settled realms are in that age, and then it gets the total supply of the realm of lords, which is defined in the lord's contract, and then it divides that over the total staked realms, and then it distributes that to the holders. And so the earlier ages there'll be more supply of lords, so the earlier you stake, the more lords you can earn, but also the more realms that are staked, the less distribution to each realm, obviously, because it's determined by how many staked realms there are. Anything you want to add to that, Red?
Not at the moment. There was just a question about whether buildings were perishable.
Yes. So, here we go. Here's the most interesting facet of them all. So the reason why we delayed the alpha is because we wanted to do an alpha rating function. And this was like this is the thing that we left to last, because obviously everything else needs to work for even this to even work. So this is why we left it last, and then we realized, well, let's just do it and delay the alpha a few days, because the more feedback we can get on these bits, the better. And so this function actually takes in your so it calculates your army size, which is how many knights you've trained, which is basically your offense statistic, and then so it takes the realm defense, which is defined by your castles and potentially some other statistics. And just bear in mind, this is alpha, so things might change a bit. We're just getting this all functioning as expected. As it takes your defense, and then it puts it over your defense plus the total attacking knights, and so that gives like a number between 1 and 100. And so if it's even, then it'll be 50-50. And so then it takes a random number, which this is also pseudo random. We'll make it true random on production. Picks a random number between 1 and 100, and if you hit over this number, so say this is 50, if you hit a 51, it means your raid's successful. And if it is successful, it means that you'll it's successful, and it will then it will pillage the resources from your vault. And currently it's set at 50% pillaging of the resources, but we'll define this as a tiered structure according to how high the dice roll was. So if the band's 50, there might be 5 different outcomes, and the 5 different outcomes might be, you lose the lowest outcome, you might lose 10% of your vault, and the highest outcome might mean you lose 30% of your vault, plus you have a castle destroyed. This is yet to be defined specifically, you can see here. Ban limit, raise some buildings. So there will be that permanent loss of a building which you've spent resources on. So that's that's where buildings get destroyed. But this is in its basic, this is a simple iteration of it. This is kind of like a proof of concept of it. functioning. This is working on the testnet currently, but we're going to build it into more like add more different types of units, have more take into account different variables, and any feedback you guys have, anybody has, you can build that in. Well, if it's voted on, and if this also can be upgraded, down the line when we decide to upgrade the diamond as well. The other thing with this rating, which is what we're actually, is Georgie still here? Yeah, he is. So Georgie's actually been working on this this contract. I don't know, George, do you want to explain it? Oh, sorry, I put you on the spot, or I can just explain it. Up to you. Basically, what he's done is he's written this contract that takes a mirror image of a layer 1 asset and mints it as an NFT on Arbitrum. And so say if you have a loot bag on layer 1 and you hit this mirror, it does it automatically. It mirrors your loot bag on layer 2, but you can't actually transfer it, so it's only, you can just really use it in whatever dApp that accepts it, but you can't transfer it to anyone. And so what this does is that you'll be able to mirror like a OG loot bag or a GA loot bag and actually then stake it on a realm. And it's kind of like your hero in these raids or defending. And so it will add to your statistics accordingly, which is really cool. So I don't know if anyone's played Dota, but Dota, you got the heroes and you've got the critters. It's kind of like that. You got like your OG loot bag, who like the hero kind of, warrior, and then you've got these, your knight and your foot soldier, which are just like your, trash units. But we're still, that's coming. That hasn't been built yet. Anything else you want to add to that, Red?
Probably just the advantage of that mirror being that instead of having to do a transaction to sort of bridge the loot bag across from layer 1 to layer 2, because that's a big point of friction for people. They're going to trust the bridge that they're bridging the asset across and all that sort of thing. So the really innovative thing about that solution is you actually just have to do a contract on the layer 2 to confirm the ownership. So instead of a bridging transaction with all the associated issues, then it's just like a $2 fee to prove that you're the owner or a new owner of that.
Yeah.
So, but it's a cool solution.
Yeah, it's a cool solution and just opens up people immediately to do those bags. But we there is a benefit to the bridge for the realms, which is why we are doing the bridge for the realms, because all this other data that exists in this whole diamond is all tied to the S realm, and we want people to be able to trade the S realm. And so in theory, once you've staked, hang on, I'll just get to it. Let's just get through this. Resource construction. So this actually upgrades your resource to the next level. So it takes in resource values and whatnot, and upgrades your resource to the next production level. But yeah, I'm going through this rather fast. But like as I said, just DM me your GitHub if you're really curious, and I'll just give you read access. So we're not going to otherwise we can get stuck in the weeds for hours going through its function. But hopefully everyone kind of gets the overall picture of how this architecture works. And this is the other major one. This is the staking facet. We're calling everything settling moving forward, and I need to rename some of these functions. But so this is where everything happens initially. And so what this does, this stake realm, this is the first function that you need to call, basically. It takes in your realm, and it mints an S realm for you, sends you that. It stores the realm in a storage contract, and it sets up all the initial statistics for it. So you can see here, it sets the current age you've staked at, which is defined by This in production it's 7 days, but in alpha an age lasts a day because it just makes everything faster. Otherwise, alpha's going to take forever. So yeah, it does. It sets up all your statistics, sets your base stats, initializes values, and then that's your staked realm. All those little gifts that I've been posting. There's all that data is an S realm. And then when you go to claim your resources, you can claim on a single realm, which loops through your resources, gets their production level, checks that you have, one full day at least to claim. And the interesting thing about Solidity, if nobody knows, is that everything rounds down to the nearest integer. There's no like floating points. So everything just rounds down. Gets your happiness rating, which is the factor in your production output. So if you're if you've just been building military buildings, your happiness might be at 76, which means that your total output is capped at 76% of what you can actually generate. This means you need to balance your production, your eco buildings with your military buildings. Returns any unused time, and then mints your resource outputs. And this is what it's calling the resource contract, the 1155 contract, and sends you your tokens, which then are in your wallet. And the tokens aren't contained on your realm, by the way. They're like in your wallet, so you can do what you want with them. They're just 1155s at that point. Then, so what we've been talking about for the last month is that these are 1155s. What the treasure guys are doing, those are 1155s. And I'm sure there's going to be a bunch of other projects that pop onto ARB that do 1155 tokens. And, I kind of see the future of this whole space that, there's this, tokens can just be used across projects, basically. It doesn't really quite exist just yet, but that's where everything's heading. And, I explained this to someone the other day, in a traditional game, you spend all this time making these assets. And then, well, what do you do with it once the game's over? I mean, it's over. Where in a game like on a game with an open database like Ethereum, you can make your assets and then potentially use them in another game where you can sell them. It's a whole new paradigm. It's very interesting. Small withdrawal functions, and then unstaking and exiting. When you unstake it, takes it sends you back your realm token, your realm, your like layer 2 realm, to you, and it burns the S realm. And then with that returned token realm, you can bridge it back to layer 1 if you want, and then do what you want with it, or you can just hold on to it and trade it on the marketplace. That probably will exist in Arbitrum pretty shortly.
But you could actually trade the S realm.
Yeah.
It would probably make more sense to trade the S realm on the marketplace
exactly.
rather than going through the unstaking process.
Yeah, exactly. And because the S realm is just another token, whoever owns the S realm has the rights to the underlying realm. Like the actual realm, like the main realm. Although, yeah. So you could trade your S realm after you've built it up and it's generating resources and whatnot, and someone will come along and might make an offer on you, and then you take that, trade them. They have the S realm, and then if they decide to unstake, they can unstake and get the realm back, or they can sell to the next person. I mean, we kind of see a huge marketplace for this emerging, because you've really put a bunch of time into building this thing, and then then you can sell it, which is cool. And then trade construction. This is like this constructs all the buildings. Buildings are constrained to the traits on the realm. So You can see here markets are constrained to the number of cities you have, so you can only build a certain amount of markets according to how many cities you have, etc. to all the other buildings. Just checks everything and sets all the stuff up. Bunch of getter functions. It's actually crazy how fast development kind of cycle is in this. And anyone coming from a traditional database or traditional backend type of architecture, traditional architecture, you would have to, write your server, run your server locally, update your server, and then, redeploy that server to, AWS or whatever. That might take, 5-10 minutes. You have to rebuild everything. But because this whole backend, this is basically, this is the backend of the whole app, right? Because this whole backend is a contract. I can hit, upgrade, and it upgrades in like 30 seconds, and then it immediately reflects on the front end. And it's super fast to call because there's 1,000, there's all these different nodes that that contain the data. They're distributed. It's wild. Yeah, and then Wonder Upkeep Tax is something, next function that's on my list to do, but we've conceptualized it. It just needs to be written. And this will distribute the resources to the Wonder holders that are staked. So you obviously don't get any distribution unless the Wonder is actually staked. And then what else we got? Yeah, just a bunch of other utilities and app storage. Initialize the function. It sets all the contract values up. And then a couple of mini storage contracts that store the 1155s and the 721s. And these can only be accessed by the Diamond or the DAO. Yeah, I mean, it's really that's the whole thing. I'm sure there's a bunch of questions. I haven't actually looked at the questions. But yeah, I mean, I think, Red, do you want to add anything to that, or?
Not really. I guess we have gone through it pretty fast, and it's tough to absorb all that at a surface level. So
yeah, I think it's to be honest. I think the only way you're really gonna, grapple, what's going on is actually reading the code. I mean, we can't go through every function. Obviously, that's going to take hours. If anyone has any questions, just you can just speak freely now. We can just talk about stuff. It's pretty chill.
Or if you have any questions about
yes. Yeah, hey man.
Hey, how you doing? It's Gyogi.
Yeah, Gyogi. Oh, sorry, Georgie.
I know, I realised my name's not particularly easily pronounced. Anyway, congratulations on what you guys are building. It looks really cool. Super exciting to play a Lua derivative on Arbitrum. That's going to be super cool.
Thanks.
So I was kind of interested in, you talked about using these, the kind of OG loot bags to mint maybe an adventurer or a hero. But I don't know if I quite understood how that fits into the bigger story, but it sounded interesting. But maybe you could just talk about that again.
Yeah, so, what you've done with that mirror contract, the plan is to use those mirrors and, stake them on a realm. And this is also the other thing that it's been bouncing around in Red and I's head for the last couple of weeks, and no one's really tackled it yet. But what we want to do is write a read-only contract for all the loot items. So each loot item basically has a statistic of it. So kind of like in Diablo, how items have, vitality or strength or, whatever type of boosts and whatnot. And we write a read-only contract which defines that type of statistic. And then you could basically pass in a loot bag or GA bag or an M loot bag, and it will output like a total statistics for that bag. Obviously, the statistics are kind of subjective at this point, but I'm hoping that this contract is kind of is a collection of a bunch of projects that kind of input to it. So it is this. It doesn't have to be used by any project, but you can use it. And what that can do is then, when you do stake a loot bag or GA bag, the contract can read what those statistics are, and then basically put those statistics in with the realm statistics, which act as like, your defense, or if you're attacking someone, it's like a hero versus a hero then, with the critters in one contract interaction. And with the mirror, it just means that, no one has to actually bridge their OG loot bags or their GA bags. They can just mirror it and then use it. Did I answer the question?
Yeah, defo. Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, it's cool because that's kind of what I thought this mirror could do. The aim was just to get loot ownership over to Arbitrum in the easiest way possible, right? So users don't have to spend much gas, don't have to stake or lock their bags. So I'm really chuffed that this project's kind of picked it up, and it kind of works for a use case. I mean, one of the downsides of the mirror that occurred to me is that obviously the loot bag is not staked right on the L1, so it could sort of transfer or move around, and it might not be reflected on L2 immediately. That change in ownership is that potentially a problem for the mechanics that you have in your game? It doesn't sound like it necessarily, but
I think if
just going to flag that.
Sorry, Red. Yes.
I think that the first owner obviously still can claim it, but if the person is interested in participating in that Realms game, then they can update the ownership of it. So yeah, I guess it just really gives people a choice of whether they want to participate by claiming that ownership.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the worst case scenario. Yeah, the new owner can just rebridge.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, that kind of helps me understand how that fits in. That's really useful for now.
Yeah. Oh, well, you said you're tweaking it to get that kind of up and running this week. Keen to get your, we can have a sidebar at some point in the next couple of days. Maybe. And we can kind of map out a plan to see how it can fit in and whatnot. I'm interested.
Yeah, brilliant. That'd be great. Yeah, I think I could try and get something on the Rinkeby Arbitrum as well. I know you guys are working on that.
Yeah, that'd be awesome because then we can. My kind of development cycle. Well, yeah, our development cycle is, we're going to run. Everything's going to be in a beta stage at some point, and then we will. Deploy it to production. So there's always going to be this beta kind of realmverse happening in conjunction with the production. But obviously the beta will be, might be 2 months ahead or something. And but yeah, it'd be cool to be able to experiment with the mirror. Because technically I don't think it's going to be too hard just to, figure it out. I think the difficulty part is what I was explaining about the statistics. Because that's really what defines, what these what these characters do, and no one's really done that yet into like that whole statistic. I haven't had a chance to do it. I've been bouncing around in my head for like 3 weeks, but I've just been really obviously focused on this. I did bring it up with a bunch of other projects, and everyone seems to be on board with it, except I think everyone's just doing their own thing right now. But the idea is that when this contract gets when the read contract gets put up, any project then can just use it. Right, they can pull it into their contracts, or they can use it on their front end or whatever. And if someone doesn't like it, then they can just fork it and change the statistics a bit. But at least there's this one kind of source of truth for all of that data on chain, which I think would be really cool.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. But yeah, that's yeah. There's a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, it's exciting.
I've just posted a link to the repo that sort of goes into a bit more depth. But
hey, Neo.
Suggestions.
Yeah. Hey, Neo, you're a bit soft. I can't hear you, mate.
Let me just try to be a bit louder. Is it any better?
That's better. Yeah.
Yeah, excellent. Um, just a follow on from the question which I was asking last night, your last night. Buildings have got statistics, right? Like you've got offense, defense, and magic, and these stats are going to play a role when it comes to rating, right?
Yeah.
So just trying to understand, the comparative value of offense to defense and magic, right? I mean, are we saying like, are those are equal weightage when it comes to kind of determining the outcome of the raid? Or is there which section of the code should we be looking at, Lord, if you have to see how does those statistics play in the outcome of a raid?
Yeah, look, it's I guess it's a bit abstracted right now, and that demand might change. But yeah, this is why games have alphas and betas, because we need to balance out. And what you've done with those resource, I did a bunch last. I don't know if you saw, but I've we can drop that into chat as well. Actually, Red, let's drop it in here.
Yeah.
1 sec.
To work out the total cost, right, of all the resources for all the competencies.
Yeah, it's this this is a whole economy forming, right? And the demand will be determined by what you just explained. Like if you're basically building castles and armies in order to get more resources. So the resource cost to build those castles and armies will be in more demand than the other things. And so, yeah, it's that balance that we're trying to get right. And we definitely haven't got it right in this first iteration. But this is why, we did the alpha. And, the more... We just dropped a spreadsheet in... Neo did a bunch of work working on, like, working on the rarity and the, like... full total rarity across 8,000 realms and the output and kind of the relative cost for each resource. And we're all building out the actual building costs and the military costs and all the consumption costs of these resources. So, I mean, anybody that's, a math whiz or Excel god, have a look and provide some input, because, collectively we can come up with the... Because there's going to be some weird little... little pockets of exploit in some part of the economy, and so it's just it's a challenge of getting this balance right. But yeah, the more people that look over it and more people that give feedback, the better. But yeah, Neo. Look, we I think to answer your question, it's. We need to dive into it more, and this is my job for the day. I need to look over it another time, and why don't we have a chat later, and just keep thinking about it, and we'll just keep refining.
Yeah,
because these values, we can just upgrade them. So.
Yeah. And it's not kind of configurable, right? Like the traditional Web 2, these parameters, it's not safe to make it configurable, right? I mean, it has to be hard-coded, right? Like these values.
We could make them configurable to a sense, but it's getting pretty complex. I think in this initial iteration, we'll just hard-code them in, but we can upgrade that data storage. But it's not something that I want. We shouldn't just hold the key to that. Be able to do that once production. We decide on one. It's going to be locked for a period of time. It's not something that we're going to just change.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Thanks.
Any other questions? Hey, John, how you doing, mate? Well done on the ARB launch, by the way.
Oh, thanks. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Same to you. These are really impressive contracts.
Yeah. Cheers. Thanks. It's been I think you guys are using Diamond, right, as well?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. It's like magic, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
The pun. It's crazy. It's crazy. Fast development cycle.
Yeah, y'all have worked really fast. I'm really impressed. It's exciting. Hopefully we can collaborate.
Yeah, likewise. You guys are moving at light speed too. Any other questions? Was there anything I missed? Channel? Sable. Game developer. Yeah, just DM me. We can chat more later about whatever.
When do you launch?
Well, yeah, it's the actual production launch. We don't have a date for that. I was saying before about the alpha and the beta. We just want to get this balancing right of all the resource economics, and so
Right.
I'm hoping to do this, alpha to the Lords in the next by the weekend, even in its current iteration, and we can just get feedback. And then plan is to do some kind of beta for like a couple of weeks where we'll promote that and we'll get everybody to just on Rank Beta just to play around, and we'll get more feedback. And then after that time period, we will then launch the production. It's just, I think it's better to be safe. We just need to be really certain that the balancing is correct in this.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so we're just being super calculated on all of this. So yeah, I mean, I don't put any date in because, but yeah, that's the current timeline.
Never works with that, yeah.
Yeah, it never works like that. You guess programming, you spend like 98% of your time just on one problem, and then other 2% of your time you write 98% of your code. But you never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Jeff, the front end. Oh, you want me to do it quickly?
Oh, yeah, I can do a front end actually. Hang on. Let me do
Quick
that.
little demo of the rating.
Oh, yeah, sure. Hang on. Good idea. All right. Is that good? You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome to the Loopverse. So yeah, the reason why we delayed the alpha is just because we wanted to really get just wanted to get some iteration of this rating functionality working, and it's still, we've got a bunch of stuff to do to even get it to the alpha point, but it's almost there. All the functions are working in a sense, and so basically what you can do is, I think do we explain the vault? Okay, so basically the way these staking contracts work is you get these. There's two timestamps that it takes. It takes one for like immediate claiming of resources, which is like after 24 hours you can claim this amount. You can claim that immediately. But there's also this vault that generates, and that you can't actually access the vault for 14 days. But the vault's the only thing that can actually get rated. So your days can't get rated, but your vault can get rated. And then after 14 days, you can actually claim your entire vault. So it means that you need to try and build up your defense, and in order to reduce the probability of a successful raid on you. And obviously, if you survive to 14 days, and you have 14 days in your vault, you can claim all 14 days. This is determined on your knights, your foot soldiers, and I'm going to build. There's a bunch of defensive buildings as well. I can do like a little trebuchet, which is cool. Love trebuchets. And how fun are sprites, by the way? Had so much fun making these things. And so you hit a raid. Basically, what this does is when you hit raid, it will run that outcome, which I explained in the contract, and it will, if it's if you're successful, it will raid. Well, in the alpha, it's currently 50% of this, and so it'll basically wipe out 13 days of this guy's vault. Oh, that's me. Yeah, you can't do this. I'm reading myself here, but you can't actually do that in the actual contract. That's a little UI bug. But you can see you'll basically be able to go to your settled realms. Oh, this is all the settled realms currently. So I think it's just Redbeard and myself fighting. But I think Squid's got one in here as well. But this is what the alpha is going to look like in a sense. So you'll be able to go here and you'll be able to search by realm ID. These working?
Not quite, but there's also the filters there as well.
Oh yeah,
you have to filter by like army size, which resources the realm has, rarity.
Yeah.
If anyone else has any other ideas of what they'd like to filter by when they're choosing potential targets, orders as well.
Yeah, you can't attack your own order and you can't attack your own realm, so that's really the parameter. But and so
filter for all Dark Lord Grugs.
Yeah, you can filter.
Realms.
Yeah, these are. Is the ENS working? I think it's on. We also implemented this. It should be working.
It takes a little bit when you got.
Takes a little bit.
Yeah, it's got a query.
Oh, there we go.
There you go.
Yeah. So we've implemented the ENS on these now. So if anyone wants to get a funny ENS name, get one, because basically these will be. You can see here. You can see all these. This is just the kind of flash rect that goes into Genesis. But we don't have any ENSs attached to these addresses, but if you do have an ENS, it'll appear here. So Dark Lord Grug will appear here, and there's going to be a leaderboard ranked by like orders and like total pillaged and anything that we can come up with, really.
It's the beauty of having all this data on chain is that all of your June analytics dashboards or any sort of data that you're used to seeing in DeFi platforms, and we can pull that all in, or anyone can pull it in and make their own analytics dashboards or websites. So some pretty interesting stuff there.
Yeah,
from an economics perspective, seeing total supply and demand of the individual resources and arbitrage opportunities.
Yeah. And another note, I don't know if you guys have seen, I know he's not here, but Zolt, you would have seen another dev pop up. He's joined the team and he's working hard on the AMM currently, and he's got it working in a basic iteration, and so we're hoping that will be ready within the next couple of weeks as well, which will allow you to trade your resources with lords and potentially create your own LP pools, but we're not quite sure yet. Well, we're not quite sure the exact launch strategy for it, because there's a lot of resources and there's a lot of LP pools to make. So just stay tuned for that one. But I mean, this little guy. I guess found these sprites, but what I really want to see in the lootverse is like a whole sprite library of little loot bag guys and girls with like their actual items. But I don't know if you can generatively make sprites. Maybe someone can, but that'd be cool. And then this like little character can be like your synthetic loot sprite, with animation. That'd be cool. But I mean, this is you see build knights and whatnot. You won't be able to do this if it's not your realm, but any other cues about this?
Just another question. In terms of raid, right? Like, once you have raid another realm, you get those resources. and can that resources be raided by someone else? It can be, right?
Wait, say that again.
So you go and attack a realm, you
Yeah.
raid, you hopefully get some resources, and
Yeah.
can those resources be raided by someone else?
No, they can't be. Because like after you've raided, it sends those contracts to your wallet address, and your wallet can never be raided. The only time it can be raided is if it's in a vault. So they're the only resources that can be raided. But once it's in your wallet, no one can access these. This is your wallet. You can do what you want with them.
Okay.
Yeah, we have floated a few ideas for putting that wallet sort of back into a treasury that might increase happiness, which would increase the total that can be rated on a realm. But that would be a bit further down the line.
Hey, I've got a somewhat unrelated question. This Blair.
All right, man.
The realm resource upgrade cost spreadsheet was shared on the.
Oh, yep. Yeah.
And I'm just trying to understand it. It looks like there's on the first tab upgrade costs. It looks like it's just kind of relative value of the different resources.
Yeah, because this is obviously the starting point, right? In a perfect 8,000 staked realm verse, this is, market forces aren't taken into account here, but this is what, a relative cost of, 1 wood, 218 wood equals 1 dragonhide, because it's the rarity difference. That was the kind of starting point, what we went with, and then if you go to the second tab, everyone's looking at my screen now. Great. You can see this is what we want input from, because you can see here, this is the upgrade level 1 in order to upgrade your wood to the next level. And so it takes, 27 stone, 27 coal, 19 copper. Now these numbers are balanced according to the rarity of these in wood. And obviously you go down the line, and you can see the just different, So basically to upgrade, it's going to be spread across all the resources, and obviously to upgrade Dragonhide, it's going to cost relative resources that are, expensive. Like it shouldn't cost 10 wood to upgrade Dragonhide, for example, because that doesn't make sense, because Dragonhide's rare. So yeah, and this is the starting point. You can see here, this is the this is the total consumption currently of resources spread out through these paths. And look, this is the starting point. It's basically creating a whole new economy here. So economies are hard. Let's be real. There's some levers that you push and pull. And then, just need to write down some of those other costs. We've got some costs written for these, but just trying to chunk out this to get it into this balanced sheet where it's easy to understand and community can input into it.
Awesome, thanks. And by the way, I love that you're thinking about ways to bring the OG loots into this. That's going to be awesome to increase engagement, get a bunch of people excited about it.
Yeah. It's crazy how quickly everything is. It's just like what Georgie did with the mirror, and what Peter Watts and those guys are doing with loot exchange, doing some great things. What the Magic guys are doing. What we're doing. This kind of multi-chain world is emerging. Oh, multi L2 chain world, really. It's yet to be seen how many actual layer 1s are going to exist in the future. My bet is that it's going to be mostly. There might be a few, but there's not going to be many. And ETH is like the scale you can get from running an L2 rather than a whole new chain is just crazy. That's where everything's going to head. I mean, I think there's like 14 optimistic forks launching in the next 6 months or something ridiculous. And there's going to be bridges between them. There's some crazy stuff happening. But yeah, we'll probably do some kind of SRealm marketplace on Arbitrum if one doesn't exist, because they're not truly trivial to make. But yeah. Any other questions? You see, it takes a little while to load. It's because what we're working with here is we're querying some things from the graph, but some things we're querying directly from the nodes. But everything will be moved to the graph in production. Well, as many things as possible we move to the graph in production. It's just a matter of Red's been working hard, working on the architecture for that. It's just
the OpenSea API outage yesterday sort of proved we need to do that.
Yeah, OpenSea's always going down.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's the best place, or has been the best place, to access NFT metadata. But we're working around it.
Any other questions popped up, or? Cool. All right. Well, I'm sure people might be dwelling on questions. If you do have any, here comes the Titan Lord. He's typing something. Who are all the new people? I don't know who the new people are. They're very quiet. I don't know. They're not bots, are they? They can't be bots. We've got that bot. I think they're real people.
I gotta do some
we're real
research.
people.
Is that a new guy? Who's that? Who's that? I haven't been keeping track.
Yeah, I think now, if you haven't seen, we've got...
we're real people.
How you doing, Nitty B?
Not bad. I'm good. How are you guys?
Yeah, good. Yeah, it's been... we had 200 people join the last, day. So, everyone's been quiet.
The outpost on loot, maybe, might be a source.
No, I mean, I minted Realms on, the day you guys launched, when all the madness was happening, but... Yeah. I got into 20 discords when Loot Mania was happening, and then I just couldn't keep up. And then I mainly just go to the main loot discord, then I go to the Divine Robes one, and then somebody mentioned it. I was like, oh, I have to go check it out if they're actually working on it. So this is amazing. Nice job.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah. Yeah, it's information overload right now, isn't it? You got so many discords. You gotta trim them sometimes. I just put them in folders and put them down the bottom.
Yep. This is great. This is great work. I love it. It's amazing.
Cheers. Yeah, it should be lots of fun.
I had a quick question before you guys go. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
So I know you guys said something about, I caught on it a little bit late, but I heard you guys talking about, bringing in the original loot bags. Now, in terms of that, it sounds like they would give bonuses towards attack and defense and maybe magic, I think I heard. Sorry, I was trying to do a few things while listening to everybody. Will you be bringing in the more loot and the synthetic loot and maybe X loot into that, or will it just be the original loot bags?
I think we want to bring in everyone we can. Yeah, I guess we sort of see in the end you're forming kind of an army on your realm with all these derivatives that wherever it makes sense in the storylines.
Gotcha.
But yeah, to start with, definitely be Genesis Adventures and OG Loot.
That's what I figured, and hopefully then in further implementations, trying to bring in as many of that as possible to give the bonuses. And then, as far as that being done, would that mean that say somebody had 3, they would gain more than say they had 3 loot bags? Would they gain higher percentages in that, or would it just be derived off of 1? In the beginning, I guess is what I'm saying. Because I'm trying to wrap my head around just because the one thing that you can get into with all this obviously is, I don't want to say pay to win, but because you have to have in order to have play to earn, you have to have pay to win. They're synonymous with each other, meaning there has to be winners and losers, and so there has to be money brought in from the pay to win in order for there to be play to earn, essentially.
Yeah.
and just trying to, make sure that there's a balance at play there that doesn't, kind of compound to the point where it becomes very, very hard to say loot one or raid one person because they have so many different bonuses at play.
Yeah, it's tricky. It's a tricky challenge. Yeah, it's a good question.
And then I would say when you bring in other ones, you would want those loot bags to maintain a higher percentage of bonuses, obviously, and the other ones, because you want them to maintain their value within this game as well as the overall, loot verse. So then it would just be they would have higher bonuses as opposed to synthetic loot or X loot or any of the other derivatives that kind of drove off of that loot.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess we also see some sort of mechanism where people can bid to have loot bags on their realm as well. So it doesn't necessarily have to be your loot bag that gets staked to your realm. So as a realm lord, you might be willing to pay a particular loot a certain amount of
resources to commission other knights, which would be other loot bags to help defend yours or help attack.
Exactly. So like democratizing that sort of process.
Right. That's awesome.
Gets rid of some of those pay to win aspects.
Yeah. Yeah, it's that challenge, right? Because we don't loot holders just got incredibly rich, incredibly fast.
Also some of them got incredibly poor, incredibly fast too. Though.
Very true.
Really depends on what side of the pendulum you jumped on at. So there's that, yeah. So, but it brings value, and I definitely would say bringing loot into the play first because that's what started this all. That none of us would be here without that beginning. And then from there bringing in the other ones. It's just all about maintaining that balance and then democratizing maybe only the loot bags where only those can be, so they maintain their value. And then some of the lower value ones, like anybody can go out and I think still I don't know can go out and still mint a whole bunch of the M loots. And so I'm not too sure how that would work. That might be a little bit too many because, if you give them bonuses, somebody could just spend all day getting those. At least I think still. I don't know how many ended up getting minted in the end, but I don't think they got anywhere near the 1 million that are out there. So that might be something where you only use the Genesis adventures of maybe those.
Yeah, well, I think it comes down to the item thing. You listening to when I was talking about the item stats?
Correct. Yeah, the different. Now I can't remember if the M-loots only had poor items, though. I think they still had some decent items in them, didn't they?
They had some. Yeah, I guess it's a weird balance, right? I mean, I don't know.
They're much rarer. The good items in M-loot.
Yeah, they're much rarer. Yeah, I think there's 25,000 M-loot holders or something crazy. This is a lot.
Yeah, well, there's 1 million. There's actually 1 million M-loot bags out there, so that's the. Yeah. That's where I mean, I guess it could turn one person who was never able to get a loot bag into a loot bag lord just by having like 7,000, M loots to jump into it. But yeah, there'd have to be some kind, and that's where, I mean, I'm not saying don't include M loot, but I think that would actually be where the toughness comes in because that math just can compound very quickly with the amount of M loot bags that are actually out there in circulation that can be used.
Yeah.
So, good stuff. Good stuff.
Cheers.
I had a quick question.
Oh, yep.
So will there be like a downtime in between raiding or being able to raid again?
Yeah.
And then will there like a cost associated to doing so, or a cost to upgrading your items? So from going to wood to dragonhide, you needed to go to like I was reading that one. You needed to go to like silver first, and then silver you can upgrade to another tier. So would there be a cost between those tiers?
There's two parts to the question there, I think. The first one was there a cooldown period after you get raided? And
yeah, so is there a cooldown?
Yeah, there'll be a cooldown period. We haven't quite defined the exact time period yet, but you can't just keep getting pillaged once after another. There'll be like and it'll probably be a cooldown period on your actual attacking realm as well.
Well, the attacking cooldown is sort of done by the unit production. You need to build the units to be able to raid someone effectively. So, and the units take time
to build. Yeah. Well, the other question was the upgrade paths, right?
Right.
Yeah. So are you looking at that spreadsheet?
I am.
Yeah. Okay. You can see you can see, it takes a different amount of resources to upgrade that resource. I mean, you don't have to upgrade your resources. It just means that, like, to get from layer, everyone starts on 100 output for each resource. But if you do upgrade your resource, it means you can get like 130 output per day. But the cost to upgrade each level increases with each level, and your output for that upgrade decreases. So you get less output with more cost. But because resources are inflationary, it will kind of balance itself out in that regard. And when there's a lot of minting and burning going on in this contract, so like when you do upgrade your resource, you do build a unit, or you do build anything, and the resources you commit to it, those are getting burnt. They're not going transferred anywhere. They're just getting wiped. They cease to exist.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other queues? I think new dev arrived. Zoldian? Is that how you pronounce your name, man?
I think he's just heading off.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he just the roundtable questions.
All right. See you later, man. But yeah, all right. Well, that was good. If anyone has any other questions at some point, just drop it in Discord somewhere. All right. Well, I guess we'll end it there and talk to everybody later then. All right. Thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
All right.